I feel I'm a member of the Catholic Church.
Love the Catholic Church. It's just the best place to be.
From the studios of EWTN, this is Open Line. It's 9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. You can also send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Happy Tuesday to each and every one of you. We take on the culture of death with both fists and both barrels blasting on Tuesday with our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan. If you've got a question for Barbara, the number's 1-800-588-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 205-271-2985. And we'll put you straight to the front of the line at 205-271-2985. Or you can send us an email, openline@EWTN.com. I'm Jack Williams. The lovely and talented Elena Rodriguez produces the program, and your call screener is Mr. Matt Gabinski. Our host, as she is every Tuesday, our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan. Barbara, how are you?
Couldn't be better. How about you, Jack?
I am fantastic. Did you have a good weekend?
Oh, it was wonderful.
Do you have
really
all of
wonderful.
the fingers and toes at the end of the weekend that you started with at the beginning of the weekend?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, we do. My grandson, little tiny guy, broke his leg.
Oh,
Not over the weekend, a couple days before on the trampoline. So that was unfortunate, but he's moving around with a cast.
Ugh.
So, yeah.
It's a wonder if trampolines haven't been outlawed yet.
Well, this one has, it's all enclosed,
Yeah, it has
you
the
know.
cage around it.
Yeah, it has a cage around it, but he just came down hard on his femur and fractured it really well. So, anyway.
Well, goodness gracious. Well, Barbara, we've got an email here that you sent to me, that you forwarded to me, that was sent to you, and I think we're going to start with that if that's all right.
Sure.
I will read it. It says, "Hello. I just read in a Catholic Church bulletin regarding homosexuality that Rome said these people, quote unquote, born that way. But I always thought the data was not official anywhere, not even among scientists. Do you know if a pope, council, or other magisterium made statements about the origin of homosexuality? I doubted that Rome would have made such a conclusion. The only statement I can find is this one from the group Courage, which is Father Paul Chek's organization,
Right.
that ministers to folks that experience same-sex attraction. It's a good one. Please help if you can. Grateful." And we'll leave the name off of that one.
Okay.
So, Barbara,
Okay.
go.
Well, what I would like to say is that I have never read anything from Rome or from anywhere, Catholic or secular, that said homosexuals were, quote, born that way. And such a misguided notion to be given as fact in a Catholic Church bulletin, inexcusable and needs to be confronted. If one makes a truth claim, Jack, we've talked about this, they also have the burden of proof.
That's right.
You're going to make a claim, back it up. So the statement from Courage that this dear lady sent is spot on. I would make sure, though, that the misguided person who decided to make this claim in a Catholic bulletin needs to be informed. The scandal that something like this can cause can be devastating, especially to our young who've been misguided already by indoctrination. So the truth needs to prevail. Even though you may be persecuted for bringing it to the fore, it's important that, you know, we do bring it forth. So I would demand a retraction in next Sunday's bulletin and ask that your research be printed as an insert, because Courage always comes out with very good things, and
Right.
other sources do as well. So I would say demand a retraction in the insert from Courage or another reliable source. But here's the thing, you know, they've been trying for years to find a homosexual gene to no avail. Even if they succeeded, though, the unhealthy lifestyle that may then be pursued is fraught with disease, addiction, promiscuity, heartache, and sometimes even suicide. So we have plenty of secular research as burden of proof on these consequences, and I would refer you to Myths and Misconceptions about Behavioral Genetics and Homosexuality by Dr. Douglas A. Abbott, Abbott, and this is from narth.org, narth.org. And what they say very simply is that up to the present time, no one has ever been able to relate any aspect of human social behavior to any particular gene or set of genes, and no one has ever suggested an experimental plan for doing so. So all the statements about the genetic basis of human social traits are necessarily purely speculative, no matter how positive they seem to be. It's like Jackson, I think, and really these are just uninformed people. They take a very simplistic view of behavioral genetics. They believe that one gene can control and determine a specific behavior. And while they were saying that this is true for a very few, for example, abnormal physical conditions including Huntington's disease, cystic fibrosis, PKU, and dwarfism, that can be caused by a certain gene. But this fact has led some to believe that there is an alcoholic gene, a gene, or a gay gene. However, genes do not act as master puppeteers within us. So that's not how it works. But you know, my good buddy Anthony Eslin. Jack, you remember him?
Oh,
Anthony
yes.
Eslin. Okay.
He's like the co-host on The Good Fight now, isn't he?
No, actually, he's only been on one time because he's a very busy professor.
You just refer back to that appearance so frequently. It seems like he's been on.
Because he hits the nail on the head. He wrote an article called Born That Way. If you go to thecatholicthing.org, thecatholicthing.org, it's called Born That Way by Anthony Eslin. I just want to tell you a couple of these because most are pretty graphic. But in 1934, an exceptionally handsome 13-year-old boy was haunting about a London watching horror films. His happy home had been broken when he was young by his father in the city, while the son was raised by his sister and his nanny, and later by an aunt. He was vulnerable, and a young medical student noticed it, took complete advantage of the kid. I can't even go on to this. But Dirk Bogarde was born that way. This is the way he's presenting that the environment is so critically important, and it does work with genetics. The environment does, but it's something that needs to be always considered. An easy one in 1892, a theater-loving woman named Mabel Webb moved to New York with her 3-year-old boy, contemptuously dismissing the father of the child, a mere railroad ticket clerk. He didn't care for the theater, she said, and she kept him from playing any role in her son's life, refusing even his surname. She put the boy in the way of show business from the start, in music and dance. He left school at 13 to enter the theater, eventually becoming a mainstay of Hollywood, playing characters similar to himself, sophisticated, condescending, and prissy. He was always her, quote, little Webb. Notoriously overbearing, she lived with him until her death at age 91. They were smotheringly close. After she died, he let his health go to ruin from grief. He had never married, but had carried on a discreet homosexual life with mother's complacence. Clifton Webb was born that way. Remember him? I mean, this goes way back there, but I sort of remember his name. And he talks about Salminio, how that all came forth, Montgomery Clift. It's quite an amazing article, and his point is the environment plays an incredible role in active homosexuality, that someone would choose active homosexuality.
We're just getting started on an open line Tuesday. If you've got a question for Barbara McGuigan, the number's 1-800-585-9396. Toll free anywhere in North America, 1-800-5396. Elizabeth in Illinois, hang in there. You're up first today. We'll also talk to Terry and Gaspar in Dallas, Texas. Open line Tuesday. Life warrior, Barbara McGuigan.
Next time on Mother Angelica Live Classics. Join Mother as she addresses numerous topics Catholics face today while exploring the odds and ends of their faith. Next time on EWTN's Mother Angelica Live Classics.
Tomorrow on EWTN Radio's Open Line, Father Mitch Pacwa takes your calls about the Bible and the writings of the Pope. 3 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Hello, this is Brian Kemper of Priest for Life with the Pro-Life Update. January 31 is the Feast of St. John Bosco, who had a special minister to the young. Those in the church today who do youth ministry have a special challenge to deal with. Children growing up in an age of abortion on demand have a harder time hearing the gospel. The reason is that they are survivors of abortion. They have been told by law and culture that their value depends on someone else wanting them, and that they could have been discarded. That makes it hard to understand love. Those who could have been aborted often suffer abortion survivor syndrome. They often feel guilty for living or fearful of dying. Abortion not only kills unborn children, it wounds born children. Find out more at priestforlife.org. This is Brian Kemper on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Our EWTN radio programming is heard on great stations around the country like 88.5 FM in Adel, Iowa, 88.9 FM in Alpena, Michigan, and 1460 AM in Albany and Hudson, New York. Barbara.
Yes.
Are you ready to head to the phones?
You said that so demandingly.
As promised, our leadoff hitter today is Elizabeth in Illinois, and she called last week and we didn't have time for her call. Elizabeth, thanks so much for joining us again. You're on with Barbara.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Barbara.
How can I help?
Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I just had a question about embryo adoption and whether or not this is in the views of the Catholic Church.
You know, I don't know that actually, any of the popes in the past, 20 years have come out against it specifically. But we do know that there are some who, like Father Tad Paholchek of the National Catholic Bioethics Center, he says that that embryonic children are to be discarded. They should be and buried. Some bioethicists talk about the licitness of adopting frozen babies, and that's what you're talking about. Dr. May was one who, God rest his soul, very wonderful holy man. He believed that the intent was a good one. In the process, the baby could be aborted, of course, once implanted. They don't all sometimes take the way what people intend. But and then also, I think it was Monsignor William Smith who believed that this puts the risk and should not be done either. So, it's such a conundrum because the whole idea of IVF, Elizabeth, is wrong from the get-go. And so right now we have over 500,000 frozen embryos stored in fertility clinics in the United States. And some, I think we just talked about this a few weeks back, some fertility clinics have so many embryos that they pay commercial storage firms to warehouse them indefinitely. I think it was Dr. who called them, they were imprisoned in concentration cans, is that what he called them. So we know as Catholics that there are grave problems with IVF. And so are you considering this, or is this something that you've had on your mind, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I've had it on my mind. I'm just wondering what happens to those children if I would never consider it if it wasn't a moral option. And I think that's my biggest concern is this a moral option? My husband and I were told we cannot have children, so I think that's where my whole thought is coming from. Is this like adopting a child or not quite,
Well, it is, and I do know of people who have done this. But it's a problem because children are IVF treats children as though they were nothing but commodities. And this just kind of extends the whole commodification of a human being by putting it at risk again, another risk again. So I know it's a hard one, and I know that infertility is a huge cross, and I'm so sorry. Have you consulted Dr. Hilgers at the Pope Paul VI Institute?
No.
Have you ever considered that? Okay, so I'm sure you've probably had different doctors to talk to you, but before I completely shut the door on thinking that I could no longer have or could not have a child, I would talk to Dr. Hilgers for certain.
Okay.
Because the babies that he has brought into the world, not him personally, but through his work, far supersedes the babies that are born from IVF. Or that are lost from IVF. You could put it that way too. So I would think you would go to him. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go and get to Dr. Hilgers. He's in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you,
God
Elizabeth.
bless you.
Appreciate the phone call. We've got a couple lines at 1-800-585-9396. That's toll free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. Next up is Gasper in Dallas, Texas, listening on AM 910 Guadalupe Radio. Gasper, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Gasper.
Hi, Barbara. Hi,
Hi.
Jack.
Hello.
I like you, Jack. You're funny.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Funny looking is what Barbara tells me, but that's okay.
No. Don't listen to him.
All right. Hey, Barbara, I have a dilemma, and I have a real tough question that I've been wrestling with. I was about to embark in a real estate investing business in a year or two.
Okay.
And, where you buy, fix, flip, and resell, and also to buy, hold, and rent out houses.
Okay.
Now, the question is, I'm a practicing Catholic, and would it be in conflict with the Catholic teaching if I sell a house to a same-sex marriage couple or rent out a house to a same-sex couple?
Would it be in a conflict with Catholic teaching?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I don't really know how to answer that because you're not attending their wedding, but you are providing a home for them. It very well could be. And if you don't rent to them, I think that you very well could be very heavily fined if you don't. So possibly the fact that would, cause hardship. Do you have a wife and kids? And I think you would have to talk to a moral theologian to see about that. Do you remember the Bakers, Aaron and Melissa Klein in Oregon, up there in Oregon, and they were make a wedding cake for a same-sex wedding?
Yes.
Well, just a couple days ago, the lawsuit came down, and they have to pay $135,000 in emotional damages to the lesbian couple that they denied service to.
That's pretty
And so I mean, this is up in Oregon, and came down with this decision. The lawyer, this case is not about a wedding cake or a marriage. It is about a business's refusal to serve someone because of their sexual orientation. Under Oregon law, that is illegal. Well, aren't even looking at it as a discrimination of any kind. They were defending marriage. And so basically their freedom of religion or freedom of speech in Oregon is, sorry, you cannot have that. So they say that they are going to protest. They're going to come out with an appeal. But I'm telling you, it is just outrageous what these poor clients have been going through to freely practice their religion under the First Amendment. I mean, this is unbelievable. And they are being oppressed by government officials. And so it's quite incredible. And if you look at the symptoms that these two ladies, Rachel and Laurel, who were the ones who filed the lawsuit, examples of symptoms included acute loss of confidence, doubt, excessive sleep, felt mentally raped, dirty, and shameful, high blood pressure, impaired digestion, loss of appetite, migraine headaches, I'm serious, pale and sick at home after work, resumption of smoking habit, shock, stun, surprise, uncertainty, and worry. These were their emotional complications that they had because this couple would not bake them a wedding cake when they could have gone to another bakery and very easily got a 10-tiered wedding cake. So this is what
it's going to be tough for all the business people. I mean, they're going to business.
Yes, you are absolutely right. I believe that this Supreme Court ruling will be used to vilify anyone who doesn't embrace and celebrate homosexuality. I really do.
I better be careful what I'm going to go into because this can get real messed up.
It can. And Gasper, we can't really speak to the legal ramifications there in Dallas, but if you can tune in tomorrow, podcast afterwards, the first question I'm going to ask Father Mitch tomorrow is from a spiritual point of view, from the church's point of view, what your culpability would be in that situation, okay?
Okay. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it, Barbara.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Thanks so much
you
for the phone call.
You need a moral theologian for that one.
1-800-585-9396 is the number. Terry in the great state of Michigan, listening on AM 990 Ave Maria Radio. Terry, you're on with Barbara.
Hi, Terry.
Hi, Barbara. Gee, Barbara, exact symptoms after the U.S. Supreme Court's marriage decision.
Amen. Da-dum, bump.
Yeah, honestly. But I encourage your listeners to investigate some good legislation that has been introduced in the U.S. House and maybe concurrently in the Senate. Mm-hmm. It's called the First Amendment Defense Act, H. 802. And from what I've been reading about it, it will protect bakers, florists, caterers, pastors, priests from indicating are going to be the negative ramifications of this marriage decision. So that's the First Amendment Defense Act, H.R. 2802. And encourage your listeners to investigate that. It looks like it's a good proactive measure to help protect our religious freedoms in these dark days.
Okay, now I've read just a smidgen about this, but is this Congress is going to pass this?
No, it's just been introduced by a pro-traditional marriage rep from Idaho. His name was Raul Labrador.
Okay.
And now it's been assigned to the House Ways and Means Committee under Catholic Paul Ryan, and I think it's also in the Speaker's hands, Catholic John Boehner. So I think they probably will decide when and if this is going to be voted on.
Okay, well, we can live in hope. We always have hope in God. We can live in hope. And the fact that these two guys, these three, would be get this through, it looks good. I just don't know if it would ever have to go to the president's desk. It would never be ratified. You get that, right?
Wouldn't we have to have a supermajority in both houses to override a veto?
Yes, and I can't imagine that would happen. In the Congress, yes. In the Congress, yes. In the Senate, I can't imagine. And then by the time it went to his desk, I mean, he would say he would veto it. We have to be able to override him, but I don't know if that's possible without the majority of both houses, or the House and the Senate, rather.
All fronts, I spoke to my rep in my state capital of Lansing, and my state House and Senate, which are both controlled by conservatives, are going to be probably introducing such legislation because we have to fight on all fronts.
Oh, you better know it. Let's pray. Let's not think any negative thoughts. Let's just pray.
Thanks so much, Terry, for the phone call. I appreciate it. 1-800-585-9396. Open Line Tuesday with our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan.
This week on Register Radio, Jeanette DeMello and EWTN's Colin Donovan talk about the new Vatican document which affirms on marriage and proposes to allow change for divorced and civilly remarried Catholics. Also, Dan Burke and Women of Grace journalist Sue Brinkman look at the Enneagram. Is it compatible with church teaching? I'm Tom Price. Please join Jeanette, Dan, and me for Register Radio this weekend on EWTN.
This is the Pope Paul VI Institute Minute with Dr. Tom Hilgers.
As an OBGYN, I am the one to whom couples turn when they need legitimate help to space their offspring or for help in achieving a pregnancy. But would I be compassionate? Would I be acting in my patient's good to offer them contraception? Contraception is a disintegration of the wholeness of the person. The act of contracepting creates a contradiction. It says only no to the gift of fertility and to new life at the same time. And it compartmentalizes the spouses by giving and receiving only parts of their whole person while withholding other parts. Contraception, like, fundamentally separates love and life. When contraceptives fail, many doctors even refer for or perform abortions. What can I do for couples when I know and believe that artificial reproductive technology are intrinsically flawed? Until next time, I'm Dr. Tom Hilgers.
I am Father Thomas Loya, and this week on Light of the East on EWTN, marriage is the primordial sacrament. It is our sharing the way that God loves. To attempt to redefine this in any way will have disastrous effects for civilization and humanity. Eastern Christian spirituality has something to say about the recent decision by the Supreme Court to redefine marriage. We will see how and what we can do. On EWTN, Sundays at 11:30 a.m. Eastern.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Nobody puts the faith into common sense practice better than Mother Angelica, and tonight on Mother Angelica Live Classics, the topic is the odds and ends of our Catholic faith. That's tonight, Mother Angelica Live Classics, 8 Eastern on EWTN television. Back to the phones we go. Rick is next up. He's in Houston, Texas, listening on AM 1430, another arm of the Guadalupe Radio Network. Rick, you're McGuigan.
Hi, Rick.
Hi. How you doing, Barbara? Listen,
Pretty
I
good.
was just thinking that when you guys were talking about the Supreme Court decision, that these justices that voted for this and their false wisdom have literally made it so that the acceptance of homosexuality within the homosexual community to be so accepted, now their chances of are finding a way through it are minimized to almost nothing, because now they've gotten society to accept them as they are. Whereas when you're doing something, when someone is doing something wrong, they come to hopefully a bottom that makes them want to change. This just precludes that from happening in the first place for them, because now they're just like everyone else. And that's basically what the Supreme Court decision has done for them. That's one thing I wanted to make. The other thing that I thought about, too, is that when I was studying in school some years back, it was subliminal messages were against the law. They could flash Coca-Cola or popcorn on the screen, and it would make you want to go buy some during a movie. And so they basically said subliminal messages were against the law. They're blatantly indoctrinating our children, and yet no one is suing these companies for doing this. And what I mean by that, you can go to any kid 30 and younger and ask them what's the percentages of homosexuals in this country, and all of them will say anything like 30 to 80%. And I'll tell them, how does it feel to be brainwashed by your media? Essentially, you have been brainwashed. You are thinking like they wanted you to think instead of with an independent mind. And,
Rick, how'd you get so smart? You really are. You were bringing up some excellent points. Excellent points. Because they say 1 to 2% of the population is homosexual. When you go back to where did they get the 10%, that was from Kinsey. And he, oh my goodness, if you read his book, I couldn't even, actually, I had to give that book away. The book that, oh goodness, what is her name? She's a wonderful lady who she wrote about Kinsey and how he did all of these experiments. But who did he use? Prisoners, convicts, and did all these experiments on little children, even babies. And that's how he came up with his 10% figure. Unbelievable. But you are so right. You are so right. And this is what's happening. Are being indoctrinated into the homosexual lifestyle. And if not, if they do not choose, because it is a choice, the homosexual lifestyle, they can become homosexualists, where they support, promote, and celebrate the homosexual lifestyle, which is what is happening. But you brought up the Supreme Court and the justices, and in Kennedy's mind, the Constitution has been converted into a great dignity document. And this is what, when I read, because his whole idea of what is the lifelong union of a man and woman always has promised nobility and dignity to all persons. This is Kennedy, Justice Kennedy talking. Without regard to their station in life, he says. Its dynamic allows two people to find a life that could not be found alone, for a marriage becomes greater than just the two persons. Here's the other part. Rising from the most basic human needs, marriage is essential to our most profound hopes and aspirations. Now, if you listen to what he's saying, it is unbelievable because as far as I can see, there are two big problems with Justice Kennedy's wrong argument. And not so much about the legality as the philosophy that he's using, the theology. Where's he getting it? Obviously, he never had the chance to read Theology of the Body. Because the first problem is that marriage is not all about satisfying our basic human needs. And it's not a, quote, essential to our most profound hopes and aspirations. Because if you look at it that way, and I read this on Courageous Priest somewhere, that the priests would be in big trouble, as would the roughly 100 million unmarried adults in this country who are not married. What, are they not having their basic human needs met or their profound hopes and aspirations fulfilled? Of course they are. That's their vocation. You know, and I got a kick because up in the Bay Area with my whole just had a blast, right? And you know, they talk about how all their needs are met. My goodness, they have 4 little boys under, well, the one will be 8 in August, the oldest. And if you would say, you know, ask any married couple, you know, been married even 5 years, especially if they have children, is marriage satisfying their every need? They would probably laugh at you, because what have they had to do? They've had to die to themselves. It has forced them to sacrifice their needs in order to meet the needs of their little children and their spouse. So he's got it all wrong. It's about not self-definition. I think he mentions that too. But about self-donation, dying to self, embracing the crucible, for Pete's sake. That's what every vocation is about, embracing the crucible. So I don't know where he got this. And then the whole idea of the lifelong union of a man and a woman always has promised nobility and dignity to all persons, and that the homosexual couples are being denied their dignity. So, you know, he's going to give that to them. He doesn't confer. No Supreme confers dignity on a human being. Our dignity comes from our Creator. Human dignity can be violated or disrespected, but it can never be taken away. And this is why this whole idea of what the Supreme Court did, honestly, it will be analyzed over and over and over again, because it is blatantly wrong. Blatantly wrong.
Thanks so much, Rick, for that phone call. We'll head now to Jessica, who's in Virginia, listening on Guadalupe Radio AM 1160. Jessica, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi. Again.
Hi.
Hi, again.
I recognize your voice. How can we help?
Oh my gosh, I had a question, but I also have an opinion about what you guys were talking about, homosexuality and all that blah blah blah. I still have that same friend who is a cab driver that, and he also agrees with homosexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I tell him, Bernard, stop being so stubborn. So anyway,
lots of people do, and we need to keep teaching, Jessica. We need to keep bringing the truth forth about this whole thing, because and what Rick was saying, it stopped the debate, and that doesn't help them either. It stopped the whole entire debate. But you might have had an abortion question, did you?
Yeah. I heard a preaching from a priest called Fray Nelson Medina about the same topic of abortion, and it leaves especially all kinds of damages on a woman, especially like if they're like at an event, and then they think, oh, that could have been my child. Is that true?
Oh, yes, it is true. You're talking about the mental and emotional side effects from abortion, and there are more than a few. If the woman is lucky to escape any physical injuries from the abortion, what the women who have aborted their children will maintain is that there will always be psychological side effects. Grief is usually, and it doesn't always happen immediately, usually there is a sense of relief after an abortion. Eventually, hopefully, by the grace of God, they will start to feel grief and regret. Sometimes they feel shame and guilt. They feel degraded as a mother. They feel a sense of worthlessness. I've been told by those that I've counseled, they can't sleep at night, that they have nightmares, they hear babies crying, they're exhausted, they're nervous. And sometimes this can be, severe depression. So, the suicide rate following abortion is twice that subsequent to birth. So, yes, there are a lot of emotional and side effects from abortion. However, the minute this poor woman is ready to face the reality of her sin, and in the sorrow that she feels, she takes that sorrow. No sin is too great for God to forgive. And no person is out of the realm of his forgiveness. All we have to do is be sorry. Even someone who commits murder, which is what abortion is, the willful and deliberate taking of an innocent human life, which happens to be murder. When they're ready to face this, God will heal them. He will lift all of these consequences. And then they will work. They will be eloquent defenders of life, as Pope St. John Paul II said. They will be among the most eloquent defenders of life.
We've still got plenty of time for you to speak with Barbara McGuigan today on an Open Line Tuesday. The number's 1-800-585-9396. Toll free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. If you're out in the United States and Canada, your number's 205-271-2985. Open Line Tuesday.
Are you a Catholic physician, healthcare professional, or medical student? The Catholic Medical Association helps doctors and healthcare professionals grow in faith, maintain ethical integrity, and provide excellent healthcare in accordance with the teachings of the Church. The CMA offers professional, spiritual, and moral support through local chapters and annual national conferences featuring world-class speakers and CME credits. For more information, go to cathmed.org.
Podcasts of Open Line are available within 24 hours of live broadcast. Go to EWTN.com and click on Multimedia.
This is Life Issues with Brad Mattis, president of Life Issues Institute.
My good friends at Americans United for Life have released a report on how Planned Parenthood has become Abortion Incorporated. during recent years, they've opened mega abortion mills of at least 10,000 square feet in 18 cities around the nation. Now all Planned Parenthood affiliates must do abortions. No choice for them. While the abortion rate has decreased by 12% in America, they're doing more abortions and making more money, well over $1 billion a year. All the while, services like cancer screening and prevention services have been cut in half, and they've aggressively put unaffiliated abortion mills out of business. Planned Parenthood is all about abortion, and they get over $1 million of our tax dollars every day. We can start by defunding them.
Like us on Facebook at Life Issues and stay informed, more informed than you've ever been.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-6. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Still have time for your phone calls at 1-800-585-9396. Barbara? Oh, Barbara.
Yes, I'm here.
I'm about to throw you to the Lions. Are you ready?
Oh, goodness.
Well, I'm going to throw you to the Nittany Lions. Megan is on the phone from State College, Pennsylvania, listening on Sirius XM Channel 130. Megan, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Megan.
Hi, Barbara. How are you?
Great, thanks. How about you?
I'm good. I have a quick question for you.
Okay.
I have been invited to a same-sex wedding, and the person happens to have been my best friend for pretty much all of our childhood years. I know deep down my conscience is telling me, not to go, but I'm really struggling with, if the church has an official stance on it, and I'm just afraid that if I don't go, I'm afraid it'll ruin our friendship. What's your opinion?
Okay. If you don't go, it may enhance your friendship in time. Not instantly, but in time. Here's the thing. You don't want to be an accomplice to something like this. And that's what you are doing. You are giving tacit approval that gay weddings are perfectly fine, and you will show them that by being there. That's why you're there as a witness. You're a witness to their. And so I wouldn't do that. I really wouldn't do it. Me personally, I know there would be some who would, but I wouldn't. And because you don't want to show that it's okay with you, because it's not okay with you. It's false, is what you're saying. What you're doing is false. So, I was thinking maybe could she go to the reception afterwards, as long as she's not a witness to the vows. Sometimes, people that are getting married outside the church, and it's, someone's good friend or daughter, whatever. So I've heard different priests say you do not attend the wedding, but you go to the reception. I'm not sure. I would talk to your priest and see what he says, Megan. I really would.
So much.
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate the phone call. 1-800-585-9396. That's the number Richard used. And Richard is traveling between Wyoming or Nebraska, listening on AM 1060. Richard, have you figured out where you're at exactly?
I just
in life.
I just crossed the border and I'm in Cheyenne.
You're in Wyoming.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay.
And I'm heading to stay in Laramie today.
Awesome. You're on with Barbara.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, Barbara. Some potentially confusing issues regarding the right of a store owner to sell or not to sell something to somebody based on what they happen to find out about those people.
I don't think there's an issue with selling. As far as if they come into your shop, you're not going to say, you're not going to ask anybody about their sexual orientation when they're coming in to buy a donut. You know what I'm saying? It was the fact that they wanted a wedding cake to be made for their wedding. And that then, again, that makes them, gives tacit approval that they will be a part of that. They will deliver it and they will set it up. You know what I'm saying? I think that has got to be the issue there. But as far as selling someone something who might be active homosexual, how would you know anyway, really, when it comes right down to it?
They find that out. Now, that couple may have been expressing their homosexuality in a way to provoke something or to bring attention to themselves or that kind of things, that's a different issue because people have the right to express what they are, whether they happen to be Jewish, agnostic, whatever. But what I'm thinking about is, as an agnostic, which I am, if I'm running a store and a family comes in and there's 3 little kids with them that are wearing yarmulkes, and I say to them, and they want to buy a present for a Jewish family, or maybe they want to buy a present to take to a wedding of 2 lesbians.
How would you know that, though? How would you know that?
Wait. Try not to interrupt. I know you have strong feelings about what you feel, and I do too. That's why I'm asking to see if we can come to some ground of agreement as to what laws should be as opposed to what religious doctrine should be. I'm the store owner, and as an agnostic, I say to them, I'm sorry, we do not sell to Jews. We do sell to Christians, but we don't sell to either Jews or atheists because it is so much against our belief.
As an agnostic?
And we also don't sell to people that are promoting gay marriage. So for that reason, you cannot buy what it is that you want to buy. And I would suggest that that family would then have every right in the world to bring that to the attention of now. On the other hand, what I think this gay couple is doing, and I agree with you 100% on this, they have come up with a laundry list of abuses that they went through, which is obviously extreme unless they are all emotionally disturbed. But that's not the issue anyway, because they could be emotionally disturbed, and they happen to be gay, and they should have every right that every other human being in the world has.
Yeah, but what you're saying, Richard, and I apologize for earlier, what you are saying is not happening. Nobody's refusing to sell someone something in a store. That's not happening. And really, that would be wrong because you're making a judgment call on a person that you don't even know. So that's not the issue. The issue is you are defending marriage. You are defending God-ordained marriage is what you are defending. Holy matrimony is what you are defending. So I think that is the important thing to look at. Okay, thank you.
Next, we'll head to New Jersey. Jerry, listening on iHeartRadio. Jerry, what's your question today for Barbara?
Hi, Jerry.
Hi, Barbara. How you doing?
Great, thanks.
So I'm aware of the Catholic Church position on abortion and a firm pro-life. But my question is, what do you think should be the law's opinion, the government's opinion on abortion?
Well, we know what the government's opinion is on abortion. It's legal. But just because something is legal doesn't make it moral, right?
So should abortion be illegal under the law then?
Yes. Yes. You can't make a decision to flatline an unborn baby's heartbeat at the whims or the selfishness or the fear of the baby's mother. That's a totally unique, distinct and unrepeatable human being made in the image and likeness of God who happens to be for 9 months in her womb. So to say that this baby does not have a right to be born is making a pretty ominous call on that little kid's life.
But my question was, what do you think should be the legal punishment for a woman who gets an abortion?
Oh,
that's
okay.
made illegal under the law?
Gotcha. Okay, I didn't hear you say that part. I guess the woman would not be punished. Those who commit the act, the abortionist, would be punished if they committed an illegal abortion. But the woman would not be punished because, again, she's under duress of some kind. You know, it's not natural for a mother to seek to have her baby ripped from her womb piece by living piece. That's not natural. So the way I see it, and the women that I've counseled, they've been under duress. Sometimes just created by themselves, I will admit that, because that's why we have repeat aborters. They would have to admit that that first abortion was an awful act, and actually a willful act of murder. So, you know, that's why they repeat abortions. But, you know, it's stress in some way, shape, or form. Some of it is culturally put there by this crazy culture that we live in, you know, that has women all radical feminists, you know, that they have a right to not have children. It's very sad. There's a lot behind this.
Next up is Mark in Ohio. Mark, we've got about 1 minute left with Barbara. What's your question today?
Hi, Mark.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, Mark. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, I can barely hear you. Yeah, I think it's kind of funny. I'm an agnostic. My question has to do with the abortion issue, but more of from an informational point of view. Have you ever heard of psychohistory?
Psychohistory? No, I guess not.
Well, it's something you should look up because the researcher who coined the term was looking at the history of the world and the history of countries, and from a psychological point of view. And one of the things that he was able to note was like the psychological background of like the German culture, in particular prior to I think it was, I know it was prior to World War II. But what was going on was that I discovered, according to his research, that it was not that uncommon for women to kill their children when they were like, you know, right after they were born or not long after they were born.
Well, it depends on what type of indoctrination they're going to go through in any given culture. I mean, Roman ladies used to leave their babies, they committed infanticide all the time. You know, we've had cultures of death throughout history, if that's what you mean. Sure.
Thanks so much. Oops, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No,
Thanks so much for the phone call, Barbara. Unfortunately, we are flat out of time. Thanks so much for your time. On behalf of our host, Barbara McGuigan, our producer, Elena Rodriguez, our call screener, Matt Kabinski, I'm Jack Williams, back at it again tomorrow with Father Mitch on Open Line Wednesday. Until then, God bless.